Moving on to the next item, which is the one that we added for discussion. It's going to be, 3D, and it doesn't have a page number, but I will turn the floor over to your directors and our Chief Hernandez, and it's regarding the mayor compensation.
We put this together as a kind of hoping to summarize the comments and the discussion that happened at the budget retreat. So we're bringing this back to just kind of review with you all that we understood correctly and have presented it correctly. And also there were a salary range thrown out, but final number wasn't determined in order to, or that wasn't narrowed down in order to create an ordinance or a future agenda. So really this is just open for comments and suggestions to how we might present it at the next regular council meeting.
Councilmember Johnson.
The question, this is discussion, and so when it comes to the next, will that be the first reading because it deals with financial, and then we'd have to go to the second one for a second reading for approval? Because it's our norm has usually been anything financial, we do a first and second reading, or something that would be voted on next council.
I think it's up to council. We can look, but we will double check with the attorney on that because you're revising the ordinance that you just updated. So it might be interpretation of words. So we will check with him on that.
Thank you. Just
or her, depending on which one we talk to.
Okay, thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. No, we did talk quite a bit about mayor's salary, what's appropriate, and how to go about doing this. And I believe it had been stated that we do understand that a CPI increase in the mayor's salary, which for the last 20 years has been far lower than it should have been each year. The CPI, I don't think reflects the true value of what a mayor's salary should be in and of itself. That would be present mayor, future mayors, and so forth. I think those numbers need to be relooked at, and I believe we had even spoken numbers for a mayor's salary. I'm not including any other duties at this moment. Should be much higher than that, in the mid 60,000 range. Additional compensation, I know that it was put into a ordinance, and that is still a little bit of a sticking point for some folks in understanding exactly what that means. It also puts a burden on the council for if there is a change in the mayor for the next go around. We're down now at a mayor's salary that is probably less than market, and maybe a grand disappointment for somebody who is running for that position and attains it. Do they have to prove themselves for a year and a half that they have this background and caliber and should have it? It's a difficult way to start a new administration. So I'm just throwing that out as what my takeaway from the discussion we had. Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson, I can't call on you yet until I give everyone a chance to speak. So hang on one second.
I asked a question. Sorry.
Anyone else have a question before I go on to a second round? Councilmember Peretti.
Kind of reflecting back to my notes and thoughts of our meeting last time, I understand why we're saying a range there, but I'm in, maybe let me know if I'm wrong on this by other council members, but it seems like we need to get to a figure that would be the mayor's salary, because I'm trying to figure out, well, how do you do a range, then how do you now assign a salary to a mayor? You know, because it's not like an employee where you have so many years of service and so many, you know, credentials and blah, 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 and that for a salary range. So I'm throwing out there, I think we need to get down to just a figure. This is what the mayor's salary is, and we can visit that periodically if we want over the years, each year and something. But that's kind of how I kind of remembered. I think we threw out that, yeah, we think it should be between 60 and 70 or 60 and 80, and those things are thrown around. But I think my feeling is that we probably should get to, well, this is what the figure is for the salary of a mayor. And this is not including that, well, because they're fulfilling city administration rules, blah, 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 and all that. And I'll go back to my statement that I made during the during our time together this last week, is that I think we need to look at it. We need to come up with a salary, but I think we need to revisit it again this next year as we get through the COVID and everything else that's going on that's impacting our city in so many different ways, that it gives us the opportunity. Let's get the mayor's salary up to what we can live with. If there is a mayor turnover in another year or whatever, we can say this is the mayor's salary for the city of Milton with no COVID, with COVID or whatever. And then we work then continuing on with, now is there additional responsibilities? Do we need to relook at it? But that's kind of where I'm at, is that we need to just come up with, this is going to be the base mayor salary for the city of Milton. And then other circumstances we can look at as we go down through this year to see how this turns out.
Councilmember Whitaker?
Yeah, I have to agree with, well, I don't have to, but I agree with that. But we need to come up with a metric to get to that number, you know, an objective metric to be able to then get to that amount. I agree, though, that, yeah, you can't have a range because it's not like you're hiring a guy of your, you know, your whatever, electrical engineering department. And, oh, well, if they have this amount of, you know, certification and education, they'll be X. But I think with this, I agree, it has to be, you know, just amount. But the trick is getting the correct, like I said, the correct metrics to be able to then calculate what that number is.
And
Michelle?
And just to clarify that was kind of the purpose of this as well, that it was my understanding that it was felt that a range between in the 60, 70, 80 ballpark was more what the council was looking for as the base salary of the mayor moving forward, removing the city administrator role. But we, in the budget retreat, we really only talked about a range of salaries and weren't able to narrow down to a value and how to arrive at that value. So that's part of the reason that we are bringing it back tonight, to kind of focus that conversation a little more, hopefully.
Does anyone that has not spoken yet have a question? Okay, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. During the retreat, we did talk about the range of what we could look at because of the spreadsheet I provided to people. And also when I went over the rates of other cities, and we talked about the 80 hours a year as an example, and what a person would make, you know, per hour, which our mayor doesn't even get $8 an hour or less, you know, on the $18,000 a year. And so Bob, I believe, Councilmember Whalen had brought up about a $65,000 figure. And I think we all sort of said, well, you know, we're looking at 60 to 80,000, somewhere in there. And then when we look at a town, a couple of towns, like Coopville is $35 an hour, and that's $72,000 a year at $35,000 at if you look at the National Office of Personnel Management of what you use with people who are working full time. the one thing I'd like to add too is in the Coopville, they have an interesting ordinance, and they're a town, but the council can have some input on this, and it says salary adjustment. They say the town council reserves the right to adjust the annual salary of the mayor in the future with the understanding that all salary adjustments shall remain effective only through the end of the term of the current mayor, and no compensation or benefits shall be payable to the mayor elected to the next term of office other than the monthly salary of $3,000 as previously set forth. Now, my thought is saying, well, gee, we were going to say the basic mayor regardless is $27,000. So my brain is saying, well, what if we say that's the base salary till you prove yourself, you know, as a person coming in, and then a salary adjustment could be made, you know, I'm just throwing it out there as some way. We're looking for, what's the word I'm looking for? We're looking for, to make sure that the person coming in has the ability to serve in the role of the RCW, which states that the mayor is the CEO and administrator of the city, and the last part is purely ceremonial. It's not purely ceremonial. So that was one thing I found interesting. And so I'm asking, so Director, you're asking, we gave the range as an idea, but you're really asking us, give me a figure right now. We all determined during the budget retreat, we did not want benefits included or any other compensation, just the base salary. And so what you're asking, I'm hearing, is that we, the seven of us now, have to say, this is the figure that you can bring the ordinance back. And then two, is there going to be a section like Coopville has and says, okay, this is the salary of the mayor and it ends in the current mayor. And then the next mayor will get this base salary, and based on their ability, we can come back and say, we're giving you the salary that is the full, you know, salary.
I guess first and foremost was just kind of to bringing this back to make sure that I captured kind of the essence of what happened at the budget retreat that was echoed by Councilmember Peretti and Councilmember Whitaker. And it was my understanding at that budget retreat that there was a majority of council members that felt that we should do away with the fulfilling the city administrator role portion of this idea that we had previously brought forward, that we wanted to look at a compensation amount that would become the new base salary for the mayor.
Councilmember Johnston?
What I meant to say and imply is when we look at we do not have a mayor definition in our code, and we go to the RCW, and paragraph is saying the role of the mayor is more than just ceremonial, not a, you know, it's more by first definition. And without a code in an ordinance in our code, we look at that RCW. But the thing is, not everybody's qualified for it. So I'm wondering if the town of Coopville is giving us an alternative to saying this mayor and the next mayor fulfills the RCW that we defined our mayor for. And if they don't, and at the end of a term, at the end of the 4 years, it always goes back to a basic salary that's sort of based on the CPI, but we've increased it a little more. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Council, help me.
I just want to say something. I think we're going down a slippery slope when we say things like people are not qualified, because people are elected to get into office. So who are 7 people to say someone's not qualified? And it's not to be disrespectful at all, but I've heard the conversation through other people that are like, well, we want to protect the city. And I fully understand that, but that's why we have elections, and that's why people get to vote, and that's why people choose who they want to be mayor. So I get what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, but 27,000, if that's what you're thinking, to do a base and then reevaluate, we're not going to attract the right people, qualified or not. And so personally, I feel like we need to be somewhat like Edgewood in the sense that you come up with that base salary that can have someone dedicate their time to the city and not be below poverty. And then a salary commission or council, I think a salary commission is the best non-political way, can reevaluate on a yearly basis what any additional pay should be. I think it takes the politics out of it. I think it takes really it's taking the politics out of it. But to say 27,000 and then have someone prove themselves, it's not fair, because how long does it take to prove yourself? So you're going to work for below minimum wage to prove yourself. And how do you define prove yourself when you were elected by the people of the city to run the city?
Mayor, I understand what you're saying. I'm just throwing it out there because we had discussed that looked at an angle too. And it's not implying, I don't mean to be offensive to people saying they're not qualified, because historically there have been mayors who were not qualified. They got elected because they were popular, not because they were good. So that happens with an election. So
I get that, but that's bad on the city, bad on the citizens of our city that do that. I mean,
we're on the same page. I'm just posing something. Then let's just come up a figure. Are we looking at $35 an hour? Are we looking at $40 an hour? Are we looking at 72? Coopville gets 72, and they do not have as many people as we have. So does that mean, are we looking at population? Are we going to look, how are we coming up with a figure right now so we can get this solved now, and for the end of this year, for next year in the budget, so that the director has guidance to bring back an ordinance that we can all accept without having it changed for some reason that we missed something. That's all I'm asking.
yeah, we hear you. Councilmember Gillespie?
There we go. We all know the hours that is required to fulfill the responsibilities of the mayor for Milton. It's a lot more than a part-time job. And as you stated, it is the citizens that get to elect the mayor. It's our responsibility as citizens to vote for the right mayor with the right credentials to fill those roles. And so I agree. I think it's heading down a slippery road if we set it up like Councilmember Johnson was saying. I think we need to find that salary that we're all comfortable with, that we can live with, and if we need to go to a salary commission, I think that's taking the politics out of it, and I think the citizens will follow suit, because that's how I think they all want to have it run. But we do need to come up with that base salary.
Councilmember Morton, I think I saw your hand.
Thank you, Mayor. So I agree with a lot of what was said, and I apologize for waiting. I was doing some calculating on some numbers. I didn't expect this tonight, and I worked all day. So I think you hit it. I think you hit the nail on the head. We can't decide for the voters who is qualified, who is not. We need to pick a number, and we need to move forward with what for the position, and it can't be for a base salary and then decide if someone's qualified later on. We just can't do it that way. That's not fair to anyone. And how do you justify or quantify who's qualified, how, after what time period, and what stats do you use to quantify that, whether they're qualified to receive more pay and how much? And that's not somewhere we want to be. So I was taking some of the numbers and averaging some of those out. And I know that the agenda item that was put out tonight averaged those out. I took the high number out and averaged it out. That comes out to, whoops, I'm on the wrong side of my sheet here. If you take the high number out, which is 140,000 for that particular city, and average out all the others, it's 82,409 per year. If you average in all the others with Milton in there as considering the low, I don't know if you want to average in Milton because we're so low, it's 71,674. So it's a couple numbers to think about. I know some of those numbers, both those numbers have been kind of thrown around, 70 to 80. I think we should be closer to the 80 range personally. So I think that 82,409 at least is a number, it's a target. I think that's a good number to go for. But so it's just somewhere to start. It's at least a number to kind of justify. It's something you can kind of justify with averaging numbers from other cities. So I'd like to hear from the other council members and see what they think.
With the exception of Councilmember Linden, everyone's gone once. So Councilmember Linden, do you have any comments to let people go again, or?
No, people can go ahead. I'm just taking stuff in, so I'll wait for a second round. Thank you.
Okay. Who wants to go first? I could throw a dart at the screen and see where it lands. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to take a side question here just so I can make my schedule. Do we have a Finance Committee meeting this Wednesday?
We certainly can. I can send out an invite tomorrow if everyone is available.
I believe I can be. I'm not trying to set a meeting up that we don't have to have per se. But all right, I'm gonna just be bold at this. I'm listening to everyone and so forth. I'm really trying to see how this affects the future of Milton, for a lot of different aspects and so forth. And I've seen the numbers that we all had when we at the budget retreat. And I appreciate everybody's work in finding those numbers and giving us averages. All right, I'll stick a number out there, $72,000. Now, I'm not capitulating. I know what the salaries of mayors in the neighboring cities are. I know that some of these mayors also have benefits, which I think will be a consideration for a future discussion. And that's what are we looking at that time? About a 37.50 an hour. But I'm not trying to make this on an hourly basis, because if we give you an hourly basis, you might as well get overtime. It's going to be a hell of a lot more than $72,000. Okay, let me be frank. So I'd be comfortable in that particular range, but how are we going to get to a particular number when we all have a slightly different idea? Do we want to use a baseline of another city for their compensation for a mayor? And I don't have the current number for the city of Edgewood, but I believe it's in this $78,000 range, $76,000 range.
98,400.
It's in the documents, right? It's in the documents.
It's in the document, because the last one I think I saw on that was a budget from 2019. Susan, you can refresh our memory on this, what you presented. It's hard to find their current budget online.
We called directly to Edgewood, and the Edgewood mayor currently makes $98,400.
And that's with the benefits.
I don't know if Tricia asked, that is the mayor's base annual salary. I do not even includes benefits.
Well,
I mean, I don't know if he's getting benefits, but that $98,000 does not include the benefit figure.
I think the way their budget is showing it, and Susan, I don't have it right in front of me, is they have a line for the salary and a line for their benefits, and then a total line for the compensation of the mayor, which last time I saw it in their budget included the benefit lines. So the whole burden on that particular salary range showed that. I don't know what it is today, so I'm going to end with, it's a big leap for the city of Milton, and it changes the future of the city of Milton quite a bit. But I would not be opposed to the $72,000 range. Some other folks jump in and change my mind upward if you like. Thank you.
I thought I saw a hand. Was it Councilmember Johnson's hand I saw? Councilmember Johnson? Oh. You're muted still. There you go.
They did get back to me also, Edgewood. He makes $88,200 a month as the base salary.
88,000 a month.
8,200 a month.
Oh.
So I just want to explain, when I brought up, I am not actually calling for a salary adjustment like I showed from Coopville. I just wanted to make sure we were all thinking the same way, because there were so many conversations, there was so much bouncing around with ideas at the budget retreat. And it is time. And it's like, I talked about at the budget retreat, we got to look at organization. Maybe it's time to have something next year after the January that the city looks at how the city's organized. And we brought that up at the council. Looking at the city of Auburn, they have a specific area that talks about the mayor. And we do not have that. We only go by the RCW. And so when I looked at some of the data and looked at the cities, when I did the spreadsheet, I think I'm not opposed to the 72,000 range. I think we're growing so much. And when we look at the Lloyd's property and the change there, and we look at the port and everything, our city needs to attract electoral people elected by the citizens that can make us be safe against everything that's around us that's trying to squeeze us in. So if we have a decent basic salary that will attract people wanting to run, then we need to do it. So whether it's 70 or 72, I don't think a range is appropriate. I think we need to pick the salary, say this is it, basic salary at this time. And then we make a determination. Do we want to create a salary commission for next year? For the next year. In other words, let's create. Are we doing it by council? Is everybody comfortable and feel that I think we've done an intelligent, thorough research to raise the mayor's salary based on what is happening to Milton for next year. And this does not start till next year. The only thing that's happening now till December is the 27,000. And then I am assuming that this ordinance is going to be starting for the budget year of 21, not for the current year. That's my question.
So that's something that needs to be clarified, because an ordinance goes into effect 5 days after it's passed. So we will have to talk to the attorney to see if that is the consensus of council, that you do not want to start this until 2021. We will need to see if we can do that then. Personally, I think our finance director has really showed that we can afford it this year. It's in the budget. My personal 2 cents, but Michelle and Tricia and the chief will work with our attorneys to see if we can date an ordinance that does not go into effect 5 days after it's passed. I saw Councilmember Morton's hand actually first, and he has not spoke a second time.
I've always been under the impression that we would be starting this year, and that would be my preference. And so if we pass this at the last meeting of this month, then my thought would be just to start September 1st or 5 days after, or whatever the case may be. So that's my thought.
Okay, let me get Councilmember Linden because he has not spoken yet.
Okay. Thanks, Mayor. You know, this is a hard discussion, so I'm glad everyone is engaged and positive. I think the course that we're going down is important in the sense that we phrase it and we base it on metrics and responsibilities. So that's showing, even though we've done some of this already, I think that's where the work needs to continue. That shows that it's thoughtful and defensible to the public. So things like population, size, utilities, number of staff. You know, if we can, I know, like I said, I know some of that work has been done, but you know, as long as what we do create needs to have, you know, ideally citizen buy-in, that it doesn't look random, and that we're basing it off of measured things. And I think that's the same reason the Coopville idea didn't gain any traction, is because we'd be basing whether we pay the person on things that we can't measure ourselves. So we should, you know, in some sort of description or justification, I think we should continue to assess some of those things out a little bit more. So when we bring it to the people, whether it's now or January 31st, that or December 31st, excuse me, that it doesn't appear to be random, and that because it is a big step for Milton, it is a change, and I think that's where the good decision is based. So there is a sense of rush with this, and I'm never comfortable in decisions like that. But how can we continue to make the stance that we finally choose solid and defensible? I think there's value in that, and if we have to, three of us have to get together or via Zoom meeting or something like that to work with some city staff to continue to maybe create that description or that justification, I think there's value in that personally. So thank you.
Whose hand did I see? Councilmember Gillespie.
There we go. So, you know, I've talked to and listened to a lot of citizens pertaining to this subject, some negative, some positive. We are the elected officials, and we have to make those tough decisions, always taking in consideration the well-being of the citizens, but, you know, making sure that we're taking the right recourse for the city and the best thing for the city of Milton. I would support the 72,000 that Mayor Pro Tem Whitten had mentioned, and I would also support the idea of it taking effect after the 5 days after it is the ordinance is voted on. I think we took this information and we asked the staff to provide that information to us. We have an excellent finance director that has provided us the information that we've all asked for. We sat into a budget retreat, and I know that there was a lot of discussion going on, but that's what I would say. I would support the 72,000 and also it taking effect after the 5 day after the ordinance is voted on. Thank you.
can you guys hear me now? Yes, okay. I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, thank you. I was waiting to see if anybody else's hand got up. Jim, thank you very much. Phil, thank you very much. Todd, Susan, Steve, Phil, everybody here. Not an easy thing to decide, but I would prefer it to be 5 days after an ordinance is, and we'll do it this month, that the $72,000 range, which seems to be being supported. So I would propose that directly. And I don't know how everybody else feels, but that's my decision right now. Thank you.
Councilmember Preddy?
I can support that decision as long as we understand that I think that we do need to review after the beginning of the year as we get into the next budget cycle. And I'm very interested in the idea of a salary commission of looking at this in more detail too after the beginning of the year. But I can be on board for supporting the 72 coming back.
Councilmember Morton?
I will support the 72 along with the other council members. And I have no problem with supporting the salary commission. I think getting a salary commission together beforehand, not waiting till next year to start looking at not only council pay, but also moving into next year, looking at the mayor's pay as well. I think getting that together earlier than later is a better idea than waiting till next year.
Councilmember Whitaker?
Thank you. I definitely agree going forward with the salary commission to take the politics out of it, because I think kind of like how Phil implied, it does make it uncomfortable. It's always tough about talking about money anyway. And I think that a salary commission would also be more objective. And I think that would be good going forward. I would go with the 72, and also the salary commission could also look at that as well and take that into account. Those are my thoughts.
So I'm sure, I just want to be clear though, that if you vote on 72, that number stays with the mayor that you vote that on. So if the salary commission looks at it and goes, well, we think they should only make 60, or the mayor should only make 60 as a base pay, it cannot go backwards until the next mayor. And same with your all salary, when they look at that, it stays with you until your next term. So I just want to make sure that's clear. Mayor Pro Tem, hang on, let me make sure no one else wants to go. Oh, actually, everyone has, so go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, thank you. Salary Commission. Every professional individual within our city, that would be your directors, there's a list. They'll all be, you might say, reviewed by a salary commission. And that's how you stay consistent and current with what's happening around you. I think we've had folks come to us a little disappointed because the range was low and just left for more money. That happens. So I think just don't hold the salary commission, which should be put together as soon as possible. Maybe their work won't start until 2020, maybe sooner. But this is something that's broad-based, not just a few selected positions. That would be my understanding of a salary commission, not just for one or two positions, but all of them. And their recommendations, this is something that we'll have to learn to adjust to, live with, and we can make it non-binding. We could take the interpretation, we can take the information from a salary commission, similar to what Edgewood does. It doesn't have to be per referendum. You know, look to it. There's a lot of ways to set this up. So that's going to take a little time to study and so forth. But by the end of the year, we should know very well what we want and when we want a salary commission to start to work. Thank you.
Can I just say one quick thing, because I don't want my tone to come off wrong, or maybe my comments to come off wrong. I think I've brought some really tough items to you guys over the last 3 years nearly. And I know that when I have to bring a tough item or staff brings a tough item, I take the brunt of that negativity. But I do it to make sure that we are moving forward and that we're heading the right direction. And you all have read the things that have been said, and probably the worst out of almost any topic we've brought forth. So I just want you to know that, yes, this affects me personally, but it needs to be done for our future. And that is really more what I'm concerned about. And that's one of the reasons why I asked for a salary commission, because we can have a council that does not support the mayor at all, but is elected by the citizens of the city. And it shouldn't be a burden or a political matter at all. A person should be paid for what they do. And so I'm okay with taking the brunt of this topic because I do know that it's going to make us better in the future, whether that's the next election or 2 elections from now. I know it's for the best of the city. Just want to say my 2 cents on that. Councilmember Johnson. Hold on, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry, it's the sun. No one wants you to take the brunt of this, because every decision that's come everything that we faced this last year has been very difficult. And we're in the middle of a pandemic. And it just happens that this request is coming in the middle of a pandemic. And yes, the budget really looks well now. And I support the increase. I have to tell you, I still have a problem with doing it right now before December till we get to the end of the year, because we don't know there's just, for me, this is my personal thing. It's not against anybody else. And yeah, maybe I'm a doomsayer, but I just don't feel comfortable right now with the economics. They say everything's good, but there's a lot of people still out of work. We don't know if schools are opening up, and if they don't open up, that means more parents are going to have to stay home. And we don't want the citizens upset. We want them to accept everything we're doing and say, yes, you are thinking for the city for the long run. And we want everybody that's going to run whatever be like the mayor we currently have, because she does see the future, and we need our mayor to see the future. And the salary commission, yes, I've no problem with the salary commission. However, I don't know if, may I ask a question? Is Edgewood's employees union?
No.
Okay, that makes a difference, I think, because some of the cities I looked at when I read their salary commissions, all those salary commissions were basically for the mayor or city council only. And every one I read called for a referendum. So that's a choice. I think it's right to have one, because that gives the citizens, gives people the 3 or 5 people who are appointed. Some salary commissions have 3, some have 5. And it can even validate all the work we've done since the topic has come up. And that's the important part of it. But I am having difficulty of approving the ordinance to take effect before January 1st. I wanted it put in the budget and as a budget line for next year. And I fully support you. It's just, they say we have the money, but we don't. For me, it's just too many unknowns for this year. But I may change my mind when it comes to voting. I hope not, but I want to support you fully. And it's hard for me not to support you fully, very hard for me. I support the salary full-heartedly. No, I'd give you $150,000 if we had it. That's how much you're worth to us. And that's my truth.
So just a point of clarification as well, Fife is unions and they do have a salary commission for their elected officials. So I don't think it's uncommon that a union city has a salary commission. I respect your opinion, Councilmember Johnson. I just have a hard time understanding how I can work for the remainder of the year and not be compensated. And I just ask that if it doesn't pass, it is what it is, but we're gonna have to look at some more additional staff then, because I can't dedicate as much time as I do, 40 to 50 to 60 hours a week for much longer. And I think it's an unrealistic expectation. So I just hope that whatever happens, we will have a plan in place for some help. And I've already talked to the directors. I cannot pass my work down to them. They are strapped and they are maxed out. And we have got a lot of work between now and December to get finished to move forward to 2021. But I do respect your opinion. I know you don't like doing budget amendments, but I hope that you can respect my views and opinions as well. Do I see, I lost track of hands here. Okay, so what I believe staff is seeing and hearing is that 72 seems to be the consensus so far with no benefits. So they will ask the questions you had regarding, do we need a first and second read because we're updating an ordinance that you just did. And so we will talk with Scott and Carrie about that, or they will. And then we'll go from there. Councilmember Linden. You're muted, Councilmember Linden.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask the hardest question that I've gotten, and it really speaks to your last point. And I'm not trying to call you out or make drama in a study session, but you know, people say and will say, well, you got yourself elected with knowing full well what the salary was, and then council raised it 80%. And now we're going back and looking at 300 something % from what it was originally. So I don't know, just speak to that, you know, respectfully. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to, you know, stick my finger in your eye, but you know, what do we say to our taxpayers when they put that on our doorstep? How do you want us, you know, or how best would you respond to that? And again, you know, it's a hard question, and I'm asking it to you as respectfully as I can. So
yeah, I don't think it's a hard question at all. I knew what the wage of this job was. I also knew what my example was from the previous administration. So when I look at what we had before, sure, 18,000 to come in and do what was being done, fine. But that's not what should be being done. And I think that we have proven over the last nearly 3 years that we are getting stuff done. I mean, yes, I knew what the wage was. I had no clue what the expectations or the necessity. I had expectations, the necessity. I had no clue what was necessary to do this job and do it well and do it to its full capacity. And I look at just the staff we have staff leaving nonstop because they were so burnt out. We haven't had that happen in the last year and a half. And it, you know, I would love for anyone to sit with me for a day or two, anyone, any of you. And I would think that you will say 72 is not even enough. And I have done it because I love this city. I want to get accomplished. My name means so much to me, and I don't want people to go, oh, Shanna half-assed being mayor because it's only $18,000 a year. That's not who I am. I want to see this city succeed, and that is what I'm doing.
If council doesn't want to see the work they continue to see, not giving a compensation tells me that you don't want to continue seeing what you see being done today. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. I really am. If it doesn't get passed this year, if it doesn't get passed next year, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. But I think we're going to set ourselves up for failure.
I appreciate your answer, you know, honestly. Thank you.
And I wish I could go back to day one and just keep a list of everything I fixed that you all don't see. Because I think if you had that list, you would see the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that have been saved since I took office alone. And that's just because I'm here day to day overseeing stuff. And what Michelle might not notice, because Tony's doing it in his department, and we were like, wait a minute, you're doing this and you're doing this, why don't we do this together? And it saves us money. Or not having my eye on public works and realizing that they're doing things they shouldn't be doing that's costing the city thousands of dollars. I'm not saying that's justification for a raise, but it's just one of the things that I do here. And I'm really, really fearful that we are not going to continue to head in the right direction. And that's what my heart says. My heart says that we are not going to continue to move forward. And that makes me extremely sad. All because of $72,000. Councilmember Whitaker?
Thank you. Also, I think with this, I think everybody would agree the thing that makes this decision at this time a little bit more difficult is just the environment in which we are all living in right now. If this would have been a year ago, you know, this would have been so much easier of a discussion. But then when you deal with the COVID and some of the people that I have talked to about, and I think I've mentioned this before, and I believe Mr. Linden mentioned this about, you know, people who are out of work and, you know, and that sort of thing just doesn't make it any easier. I agree that the decision needs to be made because the original pay that the mayor, you know, that we had set up and budgeted for that's insulting. Anybody would say that. So we just have to find that sweet spot, and 72 may be it. And yes, I sound like him because I don't have a number in my head. I'm still trying to get my head around the whole issue and how best to tackle it. That's all.
And I understand the COVID comment. A year ago, that we were in union negotiations. That wouldn't have been a good time. Before that, I had just taken office. That wouldn't have been a good time. We don't know what next year is going to bring. That might not be a good time. And you need a leader at the top no matter what is going on. And so I feel like whether it's now or in 2021, you've got to set that base pay so that you can have a leader here on a regular basis. Because what if I had another job and COVID hit? I wouldn't have been able to be in here and help staff get through it and attend. I mean, it was daily meetings with the state. So I think I respect those comments. I really do, because I've heard it. I've even talked to neighbors that say, we think you should get a raise. We see how the perception of it happening now can be negative. But I just don't know, honestly, when we'll ever have a good time. And I think it's important that we have someone here on a daily basis. And but I do understand. I really do understand those comments, Councilmember Whitaker. Councilmember Johnson? You're on mute.
None of us are saying we don't want to give, we want you to have a raise. And it's not like that's what I thought the budget retreat was for, was to put the money into the budget retreat budget for that. And so that would definitely be for January. No one was saying we don't want you to have something. Heck, maybe by December 31st, we're going to be a gold mine and say, oh, wait, we're going to reevaluate with the salary commission, and they're going to come back and give you $90,000 or $150,000. And it has been difficult for all of us. And I understand the work you've done. I understand the choice and your commitment as well. And thank God the city has you. And it's just the quirky thing in me, and I'm going to sleep on it for the next time. But we're coming up to September, October, November, December, and I know it'll be prorated, so never mind. I'll sleep, and I just am worried. And but that's how I feel. But I support you, and I think you need more, but.
And just so we make it clear, it's not prorated, so I will not be compensated for anything prior to the date the ordinance passes.
Oh, no. I mean, prorated for September, October, those months would only be 3 months of $72,000, right?
Yep,
That's
yep. Yeah, I just want to clarify the prorating, because I won't get a prorate
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay.
I can see a little clearer. I just have to work through everything. But I worry for the citizens.
Any last comments or thoughts or questions or clarification? Councilmember Gillespie?
I agree with Councilman Member Linden about the jump. But, I think that if council would have been doing their job way back and had those small increases over all those years, it wouldn't have been such a large increase. I take back to my business. When I took this business over in 2016, things hadn't been done right. There had been no rate increases. So there had to be those large increases to get it back up to where the standard was. And so I'm just kind of using that as an example that if those increases would have been over a period of time from way back when I think it was 2002 was when that salary was set up, we wouldn't have that big increase right now, but it hadn't been taken care of. And we do not know where the COVID-19 is going to go or how things are going to go. We just can't put the things that we do have the ability to work on and fix on hold just because of, we just don't know the future. But if we have the funding, like our finance director is telling us that we can do this and there's funds for it, I just think it's the right thing to do. We need to get it up to where it is the right amount of money on that salary. And so, thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. One of the reasons when this first came up, a request was made at the Finance Committee meet and go over some facts and figures with finance. And at that time, the numbers, of course, for a city administrator are much higher than the numbers we're talking about right now. But they assured us by what they saw in the budget, what they show in forecasts and so forth, and how well the city is doing, it would not be a difficult thing to put back in the budget this year for the remaining year. So I think those numbers are already understood. So my question is going to be from the staff who asked this question. Are you satisfied with the answer and directions, and can you move forward?
I would say yes.
Okay, the two that are in the room say yes, they have everything they need to move forward with next week.
Thank you, because we are coming up on the 2 hours, and I wanted to be sure everything was stated before we finish tonight.
Okay. Any last minute questions for our directors that are here and our director and chief? Okay. Or Nick, who is casually, or Mr. Abzali, who is casually hanging out, listening. Do you have anything that you would like to add, Director Abzali? But you're on mute. There you go.
No, but if any question for me, I'll be happy to respond.
Oh, boy. You just joined us to make us jealous.
Hanging near the water.
All right, well, seeing that all agenda items have been concluded this evening, I will adjourn our meeting at 7:56 p.m. And we will see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.